Hey guys, welcome to the second 22-minute club. I hope you guys had a good month. I hope you spent some time considering how you spend your time. I got a bunch of notes and texts and conversations with a few of my friends that have embraced this work block approach to time management. I love that. There are over 100 of you guys that are hungry enough to be challenged a little bit in how you approach your work, which is incredible. I had no idea that people would be interested, but that's awesome. Welcome back to my home here. My daughter is potty training. You can see here, and here are some of her favorite toys. It's great to have you in our home with us. So last month we focused on time, because without time management, no matter how much raw talent we have, if we don't have good discipline, time management, then we'll be miserable to work with. If you haven't checked that out, if this is the first time you're tuning in, I'd encourage you to hop back and check that out. Hopefully it's worth an extra 22 minutes. I have the honor of being friends with some great worship leaders, some great creative arts pastors, some great teaching pastors, especially up here in New England. Some of my best friends are in ministry, serving actively in churches. And there always seem to be sort of these similar threads of our conversations. So instead of this laser-focused topic this month, I wanted to touch on some conversations that I've been having lately. Okay, and here at the top, if you have any questions, thoughts, or topics of conversations or whatever, shoot a text to this number. This will pop up here on my computer. I can see that. Hopefully we can get to that today. So first thing that I'd like to talk about is something that kills creativity completely, something that stifles growth, something that steals joy, something that I've struggled with heavy in my first few years in ministry, and something that I can continue to struggle with today, depending on what kind of day it is. And that thing is comparison. Okay, in today's culture, it's common. We have fan pages for celebrities. We watch HGTV shows about homes that we'd never be able to afford. We watch Food Network about food that we'd never be able to afford. We watch shows about relationships, things that we want but we can't have. Is endless. So entire industries are built around our desire for whatever we don't have. Okay, I was just on this website for a vacation resort, and their tagline was, "Life is different here." Just playing to the sense that we're wired to want whatever we can't get. We'd show up to that place and we'd probably say, life is sort of similar to how it was back at home. We're just in a different place here. So in the culture, comparison is common. But in the church, comparison is catastrophic. Okay? And it is embarrassing to have to constantly remind ourselves, but we're on the same team. And not only that, we're a part of the same family. We have the same goal. So the next time you feel yourself envious or jealous or even just overly interested in what's going on in that ministry over there, you're too involved in something that you're really not even involved in, or you're bitter that something's going really well somewhere else. The challenge there is to celebrate whatever that thing is. Whatever that thing is that's triggering your jealousy on its head, steal it from, steal the power away from the enemy, the darkness, and celebrate whatever that thing is, okay? If some new church down the road released this amazing video or has been writing beautiful songs, to sing in church or baptizing hundreds of people, celebrate that, okay? God has called you and he's called me to be where we're at, okay, for this specific season, for a specific reason. We have to believe that. That's between you and God to figure out what or how long or whatever. But when I was brand new in this, with every opportunity in the world, with the internet and everything, to peek into what's going on with other churches, I could bury an entire day in it, okay, wishing I was someplace else, with some other budget, with some big crowd, or with, you know, crazy tech teams and whatever. Really selfish, dark things. One of the most transformative things for me to do in that season was the simplest of exercises. And really, I want you to do this. If you find yourself comparing yourself to other people, wishing you were somewhere else, whatever, I want you to take a sticky note and write down your zip code, okay? Might be the zip code of where you live, might be the zip code of where your church is at. I don't know if you can see that, but zip code. Then stick that to the computer that you work at, or stick it to a laptop, or stick it to the bathroom mirror when you're getting ready, your dashboard, whatever. It's a reminder that God has called you to your zip code. He's put you there right now. Maybe someday he'll release you from that place. That's up to you guys to figure out. But it was huge for me 4 or 5 years ago. It's helped me tremendously. We have a piece of artwork here in our home that's just this zip code, 01854, this zip code that we were living at the time. And it just allowed me to set my roots down, to you know, put on the blinders to all the distractions and comparison that are so begging for our attention. And it was huge. So if you find yourself doing that, that's just a little challenge. That's a handles challenge, little thing for you. We could spend way more than 22 minutes on that topic alone, but I want to get through a few more here. A friend, Matthew Kern, at a sister church of ours, writes, "It's obvious that not everyone on your team or in your community is going to be in love with what you create. So how have you found the best way to land in the middle for everyone and still be proud of what you're creating?" It's a great question. You know, understanding our cultural context is enormous. And some of us are at churches or organizations that are in the towns we grew up in, so we understand our culture, our context. But some of us are transplants or creative missionaries gone across, you know, the United States to do something in a new place. And doing some work in understanding the culture is enormous. Now, assuming you've done that because you're a smart guy, you understand the culture you're in, then we have to approach the issue of creating with an audience. Not just creating for yourself or for who you want to be viewed as, but creating with an audience in mind. So I took this personality test a year ago or so. It's called an Enneagram. And it revealed what I had known about myself all along. It revealed that I was wired creatively, yes, but I was wired to work creatively with a deadline in mind. So unlike a fine artist who would spend however long however long it takes to finish this painting series or whatever, we have real specific deadlines with very specific audiences. You know, if we're working at a church, Sunday's coming, and if your project's not ready for Sunday, then it's a total drop ball. It's a big miss for you and for your team. So a lot of you guys are probably working on pieces for Easter right now. If that doesn't come together, you know, that's a big issue. So you know, as creatives in the church, we have to be aware of the culture and the opinions of the people sitting in these, you know, in these rows, but we also have to help shape the culture. We have to challenge it a little bit into what we believe God, you know, wants us to create in this church. So creatively, if you're wanting to lead a group of people, your church, into new expressions of art and creativity, and you're a mile down the road yelling at them to come, you know, join you, you're not leading them anywhere. You're just taking a walk. You're by yourself. To lead, we can't be more than a step or two ahead of people. So picture yourself as more of a tour guide and less as a pioneer. And it doesn't mean that on your own time you can't be pioneering, but you have to be able to come back and lead people through, might be someplace that you've already been, the progression that you've already been down. That's fine, but lead people through it, pointing out the beauty along the way. It's much more the job of a tour guide and less of a pioneer. And so shaping culture can be super slow and super frustrating, but that's primarily because it's dealing with humans, and we as humans are typically slow and frustrating. So, I hope that this helps even just a little bit. We're never going to be proud of everything we do. Certain creative pieces need to go out the door. They need to serve their function. Then they need to get thrown in the trash. Okay. But others need to be our babies. And these are the projects that we protect and we fight for, that we'll stand behind. And hopefully that will push our culture a bit in the right direction. Matt, great question, man. Thanks so much for your note. I'm grateful for you. Another theme that seems to weave through the conversations with creatives is along the lines of rhythm. Okay, for a lot of us, it's either hard to be motivated or it's hard for us to slow down. There's no question that we're called to work, and we're called to work hard. We're created to work. God created us to be fruitful and multiply, not to sit and simply exist. Jesus tells a story of this 3 servants working with their master's money. They're each given this amount of money, and 2 of them work hard and get good returns for their money, for their investments. The third sort of just buries it, sits on it, does nothing out of maybe fear or maybe laziness, and his master ends up calling him wicked and lazy. So we're called to work, but how hard should we work? How much should we work? How motivated should we be? What should we sacrifice for the sake of success? Statistics show in our space here in the church nonprofit world that nearly 1,000 pastors quit from their churches every month. And if that's not a sign of a burnout or an issue with overworking, I don't know what is. I think naturally we're wired to lean one way or the other. Okay, some of us might lean towards working too often, too much, and some of us might lean towards resting too often. There is a tension there. So recently, I've had people who are a lot smarter than me in this topic talking about this to me, and I've got here. Hopefully, you can see this. These 2 spots. This is what they do with me. They draw these 2 spots here. Over here, they would say this is rest. Over here is work. And we think that living in this spot here is pretty healthy within this tension. And in reality, if we're in this spot right here, then we're saying that we need to at all times be 50% rest and 50% work, which doesn't work at all. So instead of this linear tension here, it needs to look much more like this, which is a bit more like a pendulum. If you picture just a pendulum swinging here, being able to go back and forth, back and forth. So at any given time, we can be working 100% all the way over here, pendulums all the way over here. But we also need to allow ourselves to swing back and rest 100% over here. We work 100%, we rest 100%. This can represent larger seasons of life as well. There might be a new season at work. It comes with a promotion or a demotion or whatever. You might be living in this work area for a few days or weeks straight. But what we need is to allow ourselves to swing back into rest. It's necessary. The Bible commands us to rest, to set aside a time of rest in the Sabbath. If you're not observing the Sabbath, you're setting yourself up for burnout. And if you're not observing the Sabbath, a primary goal should be sometime in the next season, a next goal would be to set aside time, begin to protect that. Some people's schedules don't allow for it, but make that a goal that someday you will have 24 hours uninterrupted that you can spend on your own or with your family or whatever. My pastor requires it from all of us full-time staff. We shut everything down on Friday. No work, no text, no calls, emails related to church stuff. We still hang out sometimes on Fridays, but we don't talk about church stuff. And that works only because the other 6 days we're working our tails off, okay? Just as it's one of these topsy-turvy kingdom things. Just as God can do more with 90% of your income, if you're faithful in your tithing, God can do more through your 6 days of work with rest on a Sabbath than 7 days straight with no rest. So today, if you're feeling exhausted and uninspired, there's a good chance you need to rest. You need to shut it down. You need to unplug, create boundaries around your rest, guard yourself. And maybe you've been resting really well and you just need to create something. You just need to go and do and work. If you're unemployed, just do something, just work, and remind yourself that you were created to create. I've got a note here from Chris Hall. Whether it's designing, doing stage design, communicating, creating worship sets, I feel the constant tension of communicating the same truth each week, but in new and creative ways. So for me, my question would be, what do you do when it feels like your creative well is running dry? He says, I know it's different for every creative, but it's a constant struggle for a guy like me who's not as creative as many people out there. Man, when you're feeling like your creative well is running dry, it's probably due to running with too much output and not enough input. You said it in the question itself. You're running dry. Producing life and work in vibrancy requires us to be healthy spiritually, emotionally, physically. There needs to be health there. You need to be healthy to reproduce. There's all this imagery in the Bible about being, tapped into the vine, being a healthy branch of the vine to produce fruit. If any of those areas are lacking or going unaddressed for a season, your spirituality or your emotional health or your physical body, then we'll start to feel it in our work. It's a bit cliche, but we need to consider the things that fill us up. And those things can't be Netflix or scrolling through our Facebook feed. Those are draining, whether we like to believe it or not. I'm talking about things that remind you why you're doing what you're doing, okay? It's time with your family or time outdoors. When was the last time you went for a walk in nature? You put your favorite worship album on, headphones, head out for a walk. We can consider new mediums for inspiration. If we're constantly working in photography and Photoshop and stuff, then we can check out blogs that focus on illustration or motion graphics or video work, whatever. Running dry creatively for me typically looks like my vision becoming, everything begins to look the same. All of the work that I'm doing, same font, same kind of feel. And that's fine for a little season, whatever you get in these little, but to grow, we need to stretch some. We need to expose ourselves to work that we don't typically spend time in. And hopefully then when we approach that next project, we'll be drawing from this replenished well. Not even with just the same sort of water, but maybe even just different liquid filling that well entirely. The biggest thing which shows your maturity and understanding of yourself is actually identifying it before it goes really bad. So Chris, the fact that you can see if you're feeling uninspired and you can identify that, that's huge, because then you can address it. When it's really a problem is when you're trying to work through it or press on like it's not an issue, then you get 5 miles down the road and you're truly on empty. You're broken down on the side of the highway. That's an issue. I hope it helps even just a little bit. I totally feel you. It's a daily check for me, especially when I'm approaching new projects and I'm just not feeling it at all. I got a picture text from someone. Thank you. That's a great picture of you guys watching my goofy face on here. So the handles challenge in these last 2 minutes to wrap up here. The handles challenge for this month would be to consider rhythm, to consider that pendulum, to work hard and to rest hard. Consider that balance, not living within the tension, 50% rest, 50% work, but allowing yourself to swing back and forth. If you're camping too long in one area, swing to the other. We have to maintain that health. Without it, we'll get stuck in one of those areas. Everything will suffer. Relationships will suffer. We won't be fulfilled. We need to be able to work our butts off, and then we need to rest our butts back on, whatever. Consider that rhythm, the life rhythm that you're living, and where you're at on that pendulum. I'm going to close this in a quick prayer, and we'll wrap, all right? Father, thank you so much, first and foremost, for calling us to these ministries, these churches where we're at, the specific zip code that you've called us to. It's an amazing gift, and we can so often overlook that or want to go to where the grass is greener, only to find out sometimes that the grass has just been spray painted and it's really not any more healthy than where we're at today. So help us to be present with our communities, to understand our cultures more. Lord, give us eyes into that, and to help us address the rhythm of our lives. That, God, for you, we can work hard, but then we learn how to rest well and to not stay stuck in either of those camps in an unhealthy place. God, we love you. You are so good, and we pray all this in your Son's name. Amen. Amen. All right, guys, thanks so much. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a note. We can connect on Facebook. You can tweet out a question with that hashtag, whatever. You can text into this. I don't know. It's all very low tech. So love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next month. See ya.